There's a question here on the screen. Hermo Company has just completed a hydroelectric plant at a cost of 21 million. The plant will provide the company's power needs for the next 20 years. Hermo will use only 60% of the power output annually. At this level of capacity, Hermo's annual operating cost will be 1,800,000, of which 80% is fixed. So obviously the other part 20% would be variable. So we can have a mention here. 20% of the operating cost is variable. Then Quigley Company currently purchases its power from MP Electric at an annual cost of 1,200,000. Hermo could supply this power, thus increasing output of the plant to 90% capacity. So this is important. At present, they are operating at 60% capacity, but it is expected that the capacity would increase to 90%. This would reduce the estimated life of the plant, 14 years. If Hermo decides to supply power to Quigley, if it wants to be compensated for the decrease in the life of the plant and the appropriate variable cost, Hermo has decided that the charge for the decreased life would be based on the original cost of the plant calculated on a straight line basis. The minimum annual amount that Hermo would charge Quigley would be. See, there are some changes that are anticipated. Now, at present, they are operating at 60% capacity, for which the annual operating costs incurred are 1,800,000. But after the change, then Quigley Company currently purchases it at a cost of 1,200,000. If this change happens, capacity at which they would be operating would increase to 90%. Then, how much would they be willing to pay for this change is what is asked in the question. So, how much is the minimum amount that they would be paid would be whatever is the incremental cost on account of this change. Incremental cost. So, we need to look into what would be the incremental cost. One first point what we can look into is there is a change in the life of the plant. At present, plant can be operated for 20 years, but the change will bring the life to 14 years. So there is at present scenario operated for 20 years. The proposed change will bring it down to 14 years. So there will be an impact in the amount of depreciation that would be charged. That's one thing. The second one is operating cost also would change. That we will look into after we consider the depreciation calculation. So let's look into, I just tabulated this data. We'll look into this one. Depreciation amount on a cost of 21 million over a period of 20 years. In this table, just look into this one. Depreciation is 21 million over a period of 20 years is 1,050,000. But when the depreciation amount or the life of it is brought down to 14 years, depreciation amount calculated would be 1,500,000. So the incremental cost on account of depreciation is 450,000. 1,500,000 minus 1,050,000. Next, let's consider what is the change that would happen with respect to operating cost. Annual operating costs are 1,800,000. Out of that, 80% is fixed. So the fixed component of the cost will not change. Only the variable component of the cost would change. So at present, they are operating at 60%. So variable operating cost at 60%. The total cost is 1,800,000 into 20%. 20% is the variable component, which comes out to be 360,000. Now, the anticipated change will increase the plant capacity to 90%. So when there is a change in the increase, or when there is an increase in the capacity, this change will result in the variable component of the operating cost to increase. The fixed component would remain the same. So now, if 360,000 is at a capacity of 60%, the 60% is increased by 50%. That is what is mentioned here. It would increase to 90%. From 60%, it would increase to 90%. That would be 50% of 60% is 30%. Additional 30% is added. So that is increasing it to 150% additional 150%. So 360,000 into 150% is 540,000. So incremental variable operating cost is equal to 540,000 minus 360,000 is 180,000. So the total incremental cost is 450,000 plus 180,000 is equal to 630,000. So answer here we see option B, 630,000 is the correct answer. Hope that is clear.